everyone, welcome to the Movieception Show. My name is Fariba, and today we're just going to be talking about Star Wars because holy heck, hasn't been a big day for Star Wars news because as of you all know, Star Wars Celebration 2023 is currently happening right now in London, and they've just been pulling out some of the biggest hits in terms of the updates regarding the Star Wars universe, both in the TV and movie scale. And yeah, I mean, I literally was just waking up at 9 a.m. getting ready for my job, which is actually remote. And as I was opening up my computer, I literally was just saying Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars. There were just so many things that we were getting out of it. Some of the biggest updates regarding the TV shows and movies. And I just needed to take like a quick breather because I was a bit overwhelmed with some of the big news that we were getting. Like it just exploded the internet. And so I did get the chance to finally dig deep into some of the big stories that we got, some small, some really big ones. So yeah, let's get right down into it. So, of course, going into Star Wars Celebration 2023, there were two things that I knew were going to happen from this event, that we were going to get from this event. One, the Ahsoka trailer, which I believe was a teaser trailer. So we did get that. If you have not seen it, I've actually done a reaction video for it. You can just click right here to check it out. I'll discuss a little bit more in this video as well, just to kind of get a bit more of my deep analysis about it. But aside from that, yeah, we got an Ahsoka trailer. So we're going to be getting that this year. On top of that, of course, the second thing I was like hoping we were going to get is some of the more movie updates. Cause yeah, I mean, when it came to movie updates, I think they put a pause on that because of the reception that happened with the whole Star Wars, sequel trilogy, which I'll go deep into. But we did get some big movie news, some 3 big movie news, which we're going to discuss very heavily in this video. So that's something to keep an eye out for. But yeah, let's really just get down to some of the smaller news just to get them out of the way. So for one thing, they did give us an update about some of the TV shows that we are getting on Disney+. So for one thing, they did get an update on Skeleton Crew. We knew that Jude Law is going to be involved in this series, although we didn't really get the details of what his character was going to be until now, which is that he is now going to be playing a Jedi. Who would have thought that, right? Honestly, like when we are thinking about the whole Star Wars universe, right? Like I think in terms of the Jedis, or Jedi, the ones we've really been kind of focusing on, aside from their own perspective, has mostly been the Skywalker family and Rey, which technically speaking makes her Skywalker anyway because like of the whole thing with Rise of Skywalker. I know a lot of people are very divisive about that. But then of course there's Ahsoka Tano, which again, if you kind of look into her history, is a bit iffy because is she really Jedi? Is she not really Jedi? Because she didn't really fully finish her training for it. So lots of, iffiness with that. But yeah, we're going to have a series where we're going to actually have a Jedi as one of the key characters. Aside from that, like I think they also announced the rest of the casting for that show. It's relatively very young cast. So lots to kind of look into for that. Again, from the fact that it does have a very young cast, casting, it gives me an idea that this is going to be a very kid-friendly show compared to some of the other, Star Wars things that we've been seeing, especially in comparison to Andor. Andor is very mature Star Wars content, whereas from what I'm getting out of Skeleton Crew, it seems to be a bit more kid-friendly. But we'll see when that show comes out. The fact that we got this update with Jude Law playing a Jedi, that's a really big thing. So that was something I wanted to get out of the way. I believe they also confirmed a couple of casting stuff, such as Jonas. Like, I don't know if you recall Jonas from playing Chewbacca. I believe in the sequel trilogies, it seems as if he's now going to be returning and reprising his role as Chewbacca in, I believe it was Acolyte. So that was kind of the bigger cast news that we did get for that series. I think they showed some footage for both Skeleton Crew and Acolyte, but they did not officially release it to the internet, so we don't really have that, although I believe there are some leaks. I'm not going to discuss too much about it because I would prefer to have a more tangible trailer to actually look at and discuss than to just go off of just kind of what people have actually, like the people who have been there, the people who have actually have the footage for it. I'll prefer not to go into those. I would actually like to see it for myself, so I'm not going to go too deep into those. But we did get those 2 updates, so that was a really big thing as well. I believe they also confirmed the casting for Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who will now be playing Hera. So that was a big thing. I know a lot of people, when they heard that Mary Elizabeth Winstead was gonna be joining the Star Wars universe, they never really confirmed who she was playing, although a lot of people were speculating that she was gonna play Hera, and now they've confirmed she's playing Hera. So that was a big one right there as well. And let me just also mention some of the other bigger, Disney Star Wars news that we did get, and that is Andor, because we finally got a bit more of a tentative release date for season 2, and that is August of 2024, which is about 16 months from now. So, and yeah, I think they discussed a little bit what the show is going to be about, giving a snippet of what season 2 will be focusing on. I think they even did like a season 1 kind of interview at the celebration event. So, but yeah, no, I'm really excited to see this because again, I liked it. I loved Andor when I saw it last year. It was definitely a tonally different show that we got from the rest of the Star Wars, movies and TV shows that we ever had. It's far more mature, but it is very, very focused on the story and not just the fan service, which I really appreciate the way that they really, again, conceptualized it, materialized it to make it so that it is about the story. It's not about the fan service, but really kind of dedicating itself to narrating Cassian's story, the creation of Rebel Alliance. And they've done such a beautiful job of doing that. And yeah, it was a slow burn. It's a slow burn series, but it works to its advantage to kind of just set up that story, to kind of just like give us this idea, this perspective of what these characters are dealing with, they're feeling with, understanding what their motivations are. And the more you get deep into it, the more you're just like, wow, this is a really dark side of, of what happens in the Star Wars world that we never really seen before, especially in the case of just ordinary citizens, right? So that was something that, again, I really enjoyed watching. Again, not just to see it from Cassie Andor's perspective was a really big part of it. And again, brilliant play by Diego Luna. I can't wait to see how the show ends off because this is only a 2-season series. So that is something I can't wait to see. Again, the fact that we're only getting 2 seasons is insane. But again, we kind of already know what's going to happen with Cassian. We saw Rogue One for that matter. So again, it wouldn't make sense to go beyond season 2. But definitely can't wait to see what they're going to do and kind of end off season 2. What it would mean, what is going to be some of the more darker aspects of that show that they're going to dive deep into. And I believe they showed a snippet of what they have already filmed so far, because I think the show is still currently filming, but will be ending filming around, I believe, later this year in August. So, but yeah, I can't wait to see Andor season 2. That's one that I look forward to seeing when it does come out next year. So that was one of the other big Star Wars news that we got for the TV sphere. I think that was some of the biggest stories that we got from Star Wars. So let's get right down into the top 4 topics I really want to get into. So let's talk about Ahsoka the teaser trailer, because again, that was the one I was anticipating was going to happen. I feel like I was about 90% sure we were going to get, and we did get it. For one thing, like, I loved the trailer. As I said in my reaction video, I absolutely loved it. I love the tone and the essence that we're getting out of it. You can get the sense of the high stakes. And again, it doesn't feel like a Star Wars movie. It seems like a different Star Wars film, but also, again, like the way that they really set up the tone, the essence, the setting. I really, really love that trailer. I so hyped to see Ahsoka. Like, I mean, I absolutely love Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka. Like, I mean, for me, like, I haven't really gone into Clone Wars as well as Rebels as of yet. But I first saw her as a live action Ahsoka Tano, and she was absolutely incredible in season 2. I actually had a chance to see her last week in Orlando at MegaCon. And she was an absolute darling. I got to see her. I took a photo with her, and she was absolutely incredible. She gave me a hug. If I'll post up my photo with her. But yeah, like, she was amazing. I've never seen someone so happy to see their fans. She was absolutely amazing to see. She was just incredible. Like, I cannot even tell you how amazing it was to meet Rosario Dawson in person. So the fact that she is now playing Ahsoka Tano, like, it seems really surreal. But yeah, she's now having her own TV show with her own series named after her own character. I can't wait to see it. Like, I mean, we get the sense of what's really going on. Although they didn't really go too deep into the whole storyline itself, other than the fact that we are getting a sense that it is going to be based on Heir of the Empire. What really surprised me is that we didn't get to see Admiral Thrawn. Admiral Thrawn. which is really interesting because I don't think they ever confirmed the casting for that. So I wonder what's up with that. I know a lot of people have been speculating it was going to be the Mickelson, one of the Mickelson brothers who were going to, because I believe they had voiced Admiral Thrawn in the Rebel series, but there have been speculations about whether or not he was going to do the live action version for the series. Like, I mean, there's been a mix about it. Like, for one thing, Katie Sackhoff, she voiced her character in Clone Wars, and then, you know, out of the bloom, she became her actual character in live action. But then again, we've also seen other cases where that's not the case, like with Ahsoka. And now it's like, okay, where does Admiral Thrawn, you know, come into this, right? Are we going to see the original voice actor, or are we going to see a completely new actor taking over as Admiral Thrawn? So, I don't think they showed the footage of him other than the fact that we saw it from the back. But I'm really excited to see that show, like, again, just to really go deep into Star Wars lore. And as I mentioned in the reaction video, I've not seen Clone Wars or Rebels, which, having seen that trailer, like, it gives me the implication that I do need to see those. Like, I probably will be really confused if I don't complete my viewing for either of those series. So I'm already putting that in my to-do list before August 2023 to get caught up with both those shows before Ahsoka. So that way I now have the knowledge needed to understand Ahsoka. Like, I mean, like, characters like Sabine, Hera, Admiral Thrawn, Ezra. I've heard of these characters. I've known a little bit about them. I just never really gone too deep into their stories. And now I have a reason to now finish off all of those. So again, I'm really excited to see Ahsoka. The trailer was great. And I can't wait to see what else we get out of that. Hopefully by then I'll be caught up with Clone Wars and Rebels before the show comes out. So that was one thing to talk about in terms of the Ahsoka trailer. And now let's get down into the big three, which is the movies, right? I think that that's been the most discussed thing throughout today because, I mean, the movie news that we got, right? I mean, I don't think any of us would have anticipated it would be the 3 movies that we're gonna get. Definitely a mixed bag as well. It's not like as if we were getting like a whole new trilogy or something like that. It was nothing of that sort. I believe there has been a lot of like confusion about what's going on. Like, I mean, for one thing, we were hearing about how Rian Johnson was supposed to have a trilogy, or that Taika Waititi was having his own movies. And then last year, I believe at the end of the year, they put a pause into any sort of discussion about the movies. Like, they weren't even giving us any updates of what movies we were getting, because I think at that point there's been so much criticism about the sequel trilogy that I think they just needed to kind of not rebrand, but kind of revamp a little bit, because right now they're not in a really good position. And let's just also discuss about the fact that last year, when it came to not just, you know, well, we didn't get any movies, but last year the TV series that we got from Disney Plus, Star Wars Disney Plus shows like Obi-Wan, Book of Boba Fett, like, for the most part, the reception hasn't been the greatest, which is saying something, because again, like, right now Star Wars is in a really mixed position right now with fan reception and the quality of stuff that we've been getting. And like, I can understand why they're kind of just pausing some things out, especially in the movie sphere, because the movies have been so critically, you know, hit, right? Like, I've never, like, for me, I have my own criticism regarding the sequel trilogy, and that says a lot about how I feel about the sequel trilogy, which we'll discuss about some of them in a bit. But, yeah, just lots of things to kind of just dissect about those, just because they were disappointing. They weren't the greatest. You can tell it was just like they were kind of, you know, going as is to kind of just set up the trilogy without having a set plan in mind from beginning to the end. And then you can just see kind of how a jumbling mess became by the time we got to Rise of Skywalker. So, yeah, so now that, I believe now it's been, 6 years since we've last had, or 5 years, 5 years since we last had a Star Wars movie. So now we're finally getting some updates regarding those, although it doesn't seem as if we're going to be getting any of them in the next year or so. So we still have a bit more time before we get to a, you know, official Star Wars movie after, you know, since, you know, Rise of Skywalker. But definitely lots to kind of dissect. So let's get down into it. So they announced 3 Star Wars movies that are in development. The first one I want to mention is the one that's called Dawn of the Jedi. That's supposed to be directed by James Mangold, who is currently also directing Indiana Jones, The Dial of Destiny. So really interesting about this one. Like I'm actually, out of all the ones that we got, this is the one that really intrigued me the most, because of the whole synopsis about it, the whole concept, what this movie is going to be about. So for this one, what Dawn of the Jedi, I don't think that's the official name, but I think that's what they're kind of implying in Dawn of the Jedi. But yeah, this one is actually about I believe it's kind of like the origins of Jedi, like Jedis in general, right? Like I think it's going back 25,000 years, beforehand. And this is a really interesting concept because the fact that they're going to actually dive deep into the origins of Jedi, like the first ever Jedi to have, to really emulate the Force and kind of just set up what would eventually become the Jedi Order. That's a that's a really interesting concept. Like I never would have imagined that we're going to go dive that deep, go into like the prequel of just like the concept of that all. And I feel like when I heard that news, I was just kind of like, wow, this is a really interesting concept, because I wouldn't have thought that they were going to go dive deep into that, or maybe if anything, it'll just be something that they will just, discuss in passing. But the fact that they're going to actually have a whole movie revolved around the very first Jedi in the Star Wars universe, that's just really amazing. Like, I mean, I wonder, again, like, I think from that, with that concept in hand, they're probably going to discuss things about like the midichlorians, which, I mean, they don't really discuss in the sequel trilogies, but they do kind of, take a little bit in the prequels trilogies, although they don't really go too deep into it. Maybe this is a movie that will finally give us a bit more of the answers of like what is midichlorians, how it works, why it is, and all that sort of stuff, right? And then not just that, but I would assume that this would also give us implication a little bit about not just the good side, but the dark side of the Force, right? So that's something that I'm really looking forward to seeing. Like, I can't wait to see who is going to play that, Jedi, the first ever Jedi, who's gonna be playing that. That's something that I feel like it's going to become the biggest news going forward, like the casting of it all, the more detail of what the story is going to be, as well as what's gonna set up. Again, I'm really intrigued with this one. This one's the one that I felt like I was like, wow, this is a really, great concept. And I would love for them to really dig deeper into the sort of that whole material of the Star Wars lore, right? Like, this is kind of like the missing piece that we probably would have wanted for a long time, and now we're getting it. So, and not just that, but really kind of connecting the dots for a lot of things about, the Jedi Order. So, looking really forward to seeing that. Maybe, who knows, that could be the film that gives us idea of Yoda's species for all we know. So, yeah. Can't wait to see it. Love that idea. That's something that I think that really ranks high up as now kind of the one story I'm going to be looking forward to seeing with the update. So love that idea. Love that concept. The fact that it's going to be James Mangold is going to be very interesting as well. So can't wait to see that. The second movie news that we did get out of Star Wars Celebration that I'm actually very interested to see, that has piqued my curiosity, is the Mandalorian movie. We're actually getting a Mandalorian movie. Yeah, who would have thought that was going to happen? But I also think that it makes a lot of sense. So yeah, basically just with what the whole thing is about is that the Mandalorian movie is actually supposed to kind of be the conclusion to Din Djarin and Grogu's story. So the fact that they're actually going to conclude off their story with not just a TV show, but with a movie, I mean, that is a really huge thing, because that means that it's going to be a very epic conclusion to kind of it has been a story that's been going back since 2019. And I wonder how they're going to do that, how they're going to set that up. Because right now, The Mandalorian is currently airing right now on Disney+. It's right now airing season 3 at the moment. I believe with this, I think they have confirmed or currently developing season 4. So definitely lots of questions about what they're doing with the Mandalorian movie and what this would mean for the TV series. And I think that even with that, a lot of the TV series that we are getting building up to it, like Ahsoka and Book of Boba Fett, I believe all these shows are going to be so interconnected that they're going to lead up to the Mandalorian movie. So that's a big thing to kind of think about going into this Mando movie, whatever it's going to be. I mean, again, it's going to be the conclusion to Din Djarin and Grogu's story. So it seems as if a lot of what we're having right now in this sort of timeline that we have post Return of the Jedi, but before, of course, Force Awakens, the fact that they have this whole timeline that's going to lead up to an epic conclusion, like, it's almost as if they're kind of building up to what is basically kind of their end game in Infinity War, but not really. But But that just, again, gives me a lot of questions about, okay, if this Mandalorian movie is going to be the end of what is Din Djarin and Grogu's story, what does this imply about what we're gonna get going into it, like in the show leading up to that film, right? Because right now we know that Grogu and Din Djarin are together at the moment. There hasn't been too much going on with their whole Avengers on season 3, aside from, that one itty bitty bit that we've been seeing with Mandalore, as well as the fact that, we saw a snippet of Grogu going back to kind of his flashback of Order 66. But they haven't really dived too much into their story since. Like, I mean, technically speaking, their story kind of concluded in season 2. Season 3, there hasn't really been much depth into their storyline. But what does it mean for season 4, right? So yeah, again, lots of questions about that. Again, the fact that I think from what I'm getting the idea of is that right now we're in season 3. Probably we're going to get some big revelations coming out of that with the final episodes that we are getting in the next few weeks. And then I think we're going to get season 4. I think season 4 has, as of this point, hasn't confirmed. Like, I think Jon Favreau himself had confirmed that they're already writing season 4 at the moment. So it seems as if we're going to get season 4. Season 4 could be the final season for the Mandalorian show before starting up the Mandalorian movie. Again, not sure kind of where the timeline is of when we're going to get this Mandalorian film, as well as what this would mean for the TV show. But the fact is that it seems as if we're kind of getting closer to the end of the Mandalorian storyline. In the subsequent future is kind of a big thing, because I don't think a lot of us would have anticipated that this wouldn't happen. I mean, this is a show that came out in 2019, started up Disney Plus for one thing, right? It was the first show that aired that day when Disney Plus had launched, and it became so massive. It became a culture phenomenon because of the fact that we got a character like Grogu, a character like Din Djarin, the relationship, that dynamic that became so, enthralling. And like, I don't think any of us would have imagined that the end was coming very soon, right? The fact that they are even looking at a Mandalorian movie to set the conclusion of that, it is pretty bittersweet. Like, I mean, for one thing, it's nice that they're going to end things off with a bang. I think even Dave Filoni, who, by the way, is going to be directing this film, by the way, he's going to be the one in charge of making this Mandalorian movie, which I know a lot of people are going to be a bit mixed about, because he did also, work on and created Book of Boba Fett, which wasn't the greatest show ever. Very disappointing show. But I think having seen Book of Boba Fett, you can tell this is a guy who really loves Mando, really loves Grogu. The fact that he really had like a whole couple of episodes focusing on them kind of gives the implication that he loves these characters, that, for him, it's always that he's dedicated about them. So I guess it wouldn't make sense why he would be involved with the Mandalorian movie. But yeah, we know that, again, he himself had said that this is going to be the epic battle. So I wonder what that would mean. What this would mean, again, for Ahsoka being, integrated into this. For one thing, I would also mention, a lot of people are not even talking about is that I think they had showed a preview of the Mandalorian, I believe chapter 23. So that will be episode 3. Not episode 3, season 3, episode 7. Apparently they had shown a preview of that episode that's going to be coming up this week, where we do see Alia, and I think she's talking to someone, and there's someone in the shadows, which a lot of people are implying could be Admiral Thrawn. So maybe we might be seeing Admiral Thrawn this week. We don't know. Who knows? Like, I mean, as I've been saying, I thought it was going to be Moff Gideon that we're going to be seeing. But now, it sounds as if we're going to be seeing Admiral Thrawn make his live-action debut sooner than we would think. So, lots of questions about that. Because again, if we know who Admiral Thrawn is before, the Ahsoka show comes out, that would be really huge. And I think a lot of people are implying that the villain for that movie is going to be Admiral Thrawn, not Moff Gideon. So, that's a lot of speculations going on with the movie. Like, we don't even have a date for this movie, by the way. So, we don't know where this show is going. We don't know how much further the show is going to be airing. We know season 3 is going to be wrapping up very soon. Season 4 seems as if it's going to be happening for sure. So it's going to be probably after season 4 that we're going to get this Mandalorian movie. We don't know if there's going to be any further seasons after 4. So there's going to be a lot of questions about that. Again, I think as of this point, we would have to think that season 4 is going to be the final season for the Mandalorian before going into the movie. So unless we get more of those updates going into the Star Wars universe, right? That's all we kind of know about what is going on the Mando, side of the storyline. Because again, like the fact that we're getting a Mandalorian movie was a big shocker. But I'm at least happy that they're gonna end things off on the big screens on a big epic way. So that's something that I'm really excited to see again. Like I hope that they do conclude in a very satisfying manner. The fact that they are integrating all these storylines with not just the Mandalorian, but with the Ahsoka series, as well as I believe it was the Book of Boba Fett, which again I'm not the biggest fan of, but it sounds as if they're going to be bringing all these storylines together, merging them to basically what could be the epic finale that we're gonna get with the Mandalorian movie. So really interested to see how that goes. Again, like I know right now with the whole situation with Mandalorian season 3 has been pretty mixed, and I know a lot of people are not really happy about it because like it has been pretty imbalanced in terms of the story, the quality of it. We haven't really been seeing Din Djarin at all this whole season. Yeah, like we'll see how that goes. Maybe again, it might just be that season 3 is setting up for season 4, but that it's taking a bit longer than I would have expected. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm looking forward to seeing this film. Like regardless, whenever that does come out. Again, we don't have any official dates to when they're going to be coming out for sure. But the concept of these are just amazing to hear. So that's something I look forward to seeing whenever it comes. Right. So yeah, that's it for the Mandalorian movie. Now, let's get right down to the biggest movie story that we got out of Star Wars Celebration 2023 event, and that is we are getting a Star Wars film, our very first, I believe, Star Wars film that is post-sequel trilogy. So it's been a while. We haven't even gone past that timeline. So this is like the first official one that's going to be taking place right after Rise of Skywalker. So this is huge. And we're getting a Jedi New Order film that will be bringing back Rey Skywalker as the lead character, which honestly, I was shook. I believe even Daisy Ridley came up on stage, revealed herself, like, here I am, Rey Skywalker. She's returning as Rey Skywalker in this Jedi New Order film that is going to be taking place, I believe, 15 years after Rise of Skywalker. Which, holy crap, that is the most boldest and ambitious thing that's coming out of Lucasfilm, because wow, that was a big shocker. Like, I literally was just like, we're really getting this, huh? Because let's be honest, like when we are looking at the sequel trilogy, right? I mean, there's just a lot of bad things when we're thinking about it, right? It's just wasn't the greatest. Again, it was a bubbling mess. I remember for me, like, I mean, I wasn't, like, I thought The Force Awakens was a pretty good film. It did seem kind of a duplicate of the first, like, The New Hope. So it didn't seem as if, it was original, but it was fun to watch. The Last Jedi I didn't hate. I know a lot of people hated that film because it basically kind of, it basically just ended off any sort of speculations regarding Snoke and some of the things that were happening with Rey and all that sort of stuff. And I mean, yeah, there was a lot of things a lot of people did not like about the concepts, some of the storylines, the development. Like, I thought it was okay. I think there were some moments it did have. It wasn't the greatest, but yeah, that was Last Jedi, right? And then there's Rise of Skywalker, which I completely did not like whatsoever. I literally went into that film hoping that it will end things off on a nice note, but it was just a big mess. Like, the dialogue was really cringy. Like, just to hear Oscar Isaac say, Palpatine has returned somehow, right? Like, he has returned. Somehow he has returned, right? That was definitely a bit cringy. And of course, the ending was not that great. I actually went to go see it with my sister and my dad. And my sister's a huge Star Wars fan, by the way. She's a huge Star Wars. She's the one who actually introduced me to Star Wars, and she's younger than me. But regardless of that, she's a huge Star Wars fan as much as I am. And we went to go see this film, and we both, like, when we got to the ending, the way we were reacting, like, it was kind of, we were basically kind of being very coincidental with our reaction. Like, we were just saying everything at the same time. We were just sighing. We were just really in disbelief. We were just disappointed. We were not happy with Rise of Skywalker. So, and I was not too thrilled with the whole Rey Skywalker thing. I was just like, that, it was too much of a gimmick. Yeah, so the fact that they are bringing Rey back, I mean, that's a bold move by them, because I know it's really, really decisive. Not a lot of people like it. It's very critical. The fact that they're even doing it this soon is a really big, again, really daring move by Star Wars, which again, I wonder why. Like, big questions about that. But the fact that it's clear that this is going to be taking place 15 years after Rise of Skywalker. And from just the name itself, it seems as if Rey is going to be doing what, Luke Skywalker tried to do years ago, which is try to rebuild the Jedi Order, right? And again, it seems like that it's going to be the, focus of it all. So lots of questions about that, of course. Again, really bold move. Not sure if this was a bit too soon to really dive into, but we'll see how it goes, right? I think the biggest question, of course, is going to be casting, because it isn't as if we are, looking at Dawn of the Jedi, where it's like they're kind of starting a whole new movie that is more of like a spin-off. This is like based upon a sequel, right? So this is going to be like chapter 10, basically, of the Star Wars movies. And again, like, who knows what this, they're going to be doing, what they're going to focus on, who's going to be the villain. We don't know of any of that sort, but there's going to be questions about casting, right? So for one thing, is John Boyega or Oscar Isaac going to be returning, right? Yeah, we don't know if any of those are coming. We don't know if any of those actors are going to be returning, because from what I remember, John Boyega and Oscar Isaac were so critical. Like, they absolutely hated what they got from the whole Star Wars trilogy. Like, they just, like, the way that they did not want to return, like, they were pretty critical about the whole, films, the whole Star Wars trilogy that they had. They did not like the way that the characters developed. It was not the nicest words that I've been hearing from the cast. And now there's like, here's a now new sequel that we're gonna be getting after Rise of Skywalker. Will they return, right? I did see the reactions from Twitter. A lot of people were hoping that maybe this would mean that John Boyega would be able to return, get the story that he should have gotten for a long time, because we do know that they kind of imply that he is somewhat force sensitive. So are they going to focus on that? We don't know. Maybe they are trying to negotiate with John Boyega and Oscar Isaac to return. We don't know. Again, lots of big bubbles regarding about what is going on the whole series. The whole movie. And then, of course, the other big one is, are we going to see Adam Driver return as Ben Solo? Because technically speaking, he technically died in Rise of Skywalker, but also it's like he was also, he's kind of lives inside of Rey. So there's a lot of huge, like, a lot of big question marks regarding about how Ben Solo stands into this. Although I would love to see Ben Solo return, because again, he did turn to the good side by the end of it all. And Adam Driver is great. I love him in any sort of project he's in. And again, like, we'll see how it all turns out, because there's a lot of questions about that as well. A lot of people wanted to see Ben Solo return. Given that we are now getting this chapter 10 for the Star Wars movies, which again, it was pretty insane to hear. Like, I thought we were going to get like a bunch of new characters for the next set of like the next Star Wars trilogy that we're going to get after the sequels. But now it seems as if we're going to be returning back to some of these, characters like Rey, of course, who is officially coming back. And again, I love Daisy Ridley, by the way. I like her work. I've seen her in other films. Like, I saw her in a movie called Ophelia. She's a really good actress. I just think that it wasn't really her fault that the whole trilogy sucked. The whole trilogy sucked because the writing sucked. Not because of the cast, not because of the actors. It sucked because the writing sucked. There was no development. There was no sort of organization with the story. It was clear they were just making up along the way. There was no, point A to point B. It was just a jumbling mess, right? So we'll see how that one goes. Because I think that was, again, just hearing the fact that we're going to get a Rey, another Rey movie or another Rey-centered movie was a completely major shock, just because, again, it's happening so soon. It hasn't even been, I believe, like 4 or 5 years since we've gone Rise of Skywalker. So we'll see how that one goes. Again, we don't have any official release date as to when this movie is going to come out or any further developments of it, aside from Daisy Ridley's officially returning and just kind of a small snippet, like a treatment of what we're going to get out of this movie, right? Like, what we know what this movie is going to be about, which is, again, Rey, I believe 15 years later, who I think at this point is one thing to say. I think the Rey that we're going to see is going to be more closer to Daisy Ridley's actual age. So that's at least going to be a nice thing. But yeah, it's going to just be about her taking over, trying to rebuild the Jedi Order. Lots of questions about what this would mean. Again, does this mean that Mark Hamill is going to be returning as a, ghost Luke Skywalker? Are we going to see any of the other ones kind of come in as Force ghosts, like, Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker, who, by the way, I did also meet last week at MegaCon as well, for a brief moment. But yeah, lots of questions about that. That's something that I would say really shocked me the most. And also was the one that I was just like, I wasn't sure how I felt about it just because of the disasters that were the sequel trilogies. But we'll see how that goes, right? We have a lot of time with it. They don't have a release date for it. They haven't even started filming for it, other than the fact that it's probably in pre-production as of this point. I believe they do have a director, which is going to be directed by Charmin Obaid-Chinoy, who I believe was the creator or was a showrunner for Miss Marvel. So at least that's a bit of like, a good sign of things, but we'll see how that goes. But yeah, those were the 3 movie announcements that they made at Star Wars Celebration, as well as the fact that we did see the Ahsoka trailer, which did get released online. But yeah, I think that's all I'd like to say about the updates that we got from the Star Wars Celebration, because again, these were the biggest ones, the ones I anticipate were going to be the big news, and ended up becoming the big news, and holy crap, has it really got the internet exploding. So yeah, I think that's all I'd like to say about the coverage that we got from Star Wars Celebration. Again, some very mixed things, some things I was really excited about, some things that really did shock me, and some things that really kept me intriguing, right? And I think that's all we got as of right now. We're gonna have another whole day of Star Wars news, so we'll see how that follows through tomorrow. But yeah, I think that's really all I have to say about Star Wars Celebration news that we got today. Let me know what your thoughts are. What do you think of the news that we got today? Did you see the Ahsoka trailer? If so, what are your thoughts about it? What are your thoughts about the 3 movies that we got? Like, I mean, are you excited about all of them? Are you excited about some of them? Are you excited about none of them? What do you think about them? What are your speculations so far? What do you think is going to happen? Do you have any casting, speculations for who could be playing this Jedi of the first ever Jedi? Any other things that you have about it, let me know. And what do you think about some of the more, updates that we got with Acolyte as well as the Skeleton Crew? Let me know in the comments down below, and make sure to like and subscribe.